right, brothers. The question for today is the new moon feast day also a Sabbath?
Well, let's define our terms, shall we?
Yes.
I'm actually curious about this one. I don't. I'm not sure here. So
Okay. Well, so the new moon feast days, I would define by Jubilee 6, specifically verses 23 through 28, where it recalls that they are the new moon of the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th months only. So there's 4 of them, contrary to popular belief. And then, yeah, so there was one account we saw that there was a sacrifice, worship, covenant meal going on that day. There in that time in Samuel, but then also there is Amos chapter 8, verse 4 through 5. It says, "Hear this, you who trample the needy to do away with the humble of the land, saying, when will the new moon be over so that we may sell grain, and the Sabbath that we may open the wheat market?" Basically, that suggests to me that the people there were saying that there's no commerce or no buying or selling, no occupational labor basically done on the new moon day.
That's
But
right.
we don't get a specific direct instruction for that, which makes it difficult and confusing.
It does make it difficult.
wasn't there something's problem? I feel like in Jubilees there was something about the new moons when Noah got off the boat.
That's what West Blaze was citing earlier from Jubilee 6, 23 through 28. Yep. And he goes in to break down why he starts memorializing and celebrating the new moons according to different things that had happened throughout the year he was on the boat and when the flood started to when he got off the boat. And so that's why it's the first month, the 4th month, the 7th, and the 10th month. And it's every 91 days. Actually, I have a little chart here to show us that it's actually every 91 days. This is what's interesting about this cycle. And this is based off the 364-day calendar that Enoch and Jubilees give to us. This is a calendar that every 91 days there's an intercalary day is what Enoch calls it, and it basically is the connecting day between the different seasons every 3 months.
One version of Enoch says that the year's 360 days plus the 4 intercalary days, right? So you got the Jubilees referring to them as separations, or what is it, divisions of the seasons.
That's right. Yeah, so this is the idea of the new moon, according to the 364 calendar, according to the book of Enoch and Jubilees. There is a discrepancy with this concept because of Judaism. Judaism has taken this idea and they've made it to be the head of the month, right? And so they declare that it's just every month that's considered the new moon. And so it confuses people because they think that, it's just the head of the month. But it does happen every 3 months on the first day of that following month. See what I'm saying? So it does happen at the beginning of a month. It's just not every 12 months. It's not 12 times. It's only 4 times. So that's why in this chapter that we read in 1 Samuel 20, it says it was the second day and some translations say even the second day of the month. And David still was not at the feast. And so because it's the first day, it would have been the actual celebration of the new moon. And I don't see, like Wes said, I don't see it specifically commanded as it's not included in Exodus 23, Leviticus 23, or Deuteronomy 16 as feast days, or even Numbers 28 and 29. It's not specifically mentioned it's inferred in Deuteronomy, I think, or Numbers 29, 6 and 7, but we're never told outright, like the new moon is a Sabbath and this is how you celebrate it. But all these other verses that are in the scriptures, a few of which Wes mentioned, leads us to the conclusion that they did celebrate this as a Sabbath, that they didn't work. So what does that do for us today if we're trying to do the instructions that apply to us? It's a topic I'm still studying out, but my wife and I, we personally observe this day when we can. We try to remember it and line up the calendars and we try to observe it when we can. So
4 times a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely confusing too when you try to figure out, okay, so is this dependent on the phase of the moon, like many have been taught to understand? And I've reached the conclusion that it may have used to be, right? But it's definitely not anymore, according to understanding. Now, nobody can say we have the 100% correct calendar and we know how it's supposed to be. We're all practicing, right? Awaiting the restoration and the resurrection where we can do it perfectly. But Yeah, that's all I
Yeah.
can think right now.
Yeah, it's like even right now as we talk about this, guys, there's someone in the live chat saying that these things don't apply to us because Jesus showed up. So this is this type of teaching that we've seen from folks that a lot of modern churches, right, that teach this dispensational theology. They've been told that the instructions throughout the law and the prophets were just for the Jews, and therefore particular feasts like a new moon celebration would just be a Jewish feast. But it's funny because it's like people seem to forget, and a lot of the modern preachers that teach that kind of stuff seem to forget that Jesus was a Jew from the tribe of Judah. He's the king of Israel, the king of the covenant. And so we're under his authority and under his instruction. And as we become believers and disciples to Jesus, we are grafted into Israel, as Ephesians chapter 2, 8 through 11, and also Romans 10 and 11 explain to us. This is why Yeshua is gathering all nations to become part of Israel. So there is no separation. There is no Greek. They're Jew as disciples in Jesus, as Paul tells us, right? We all just do the behavior of Jesus. And these idea of taking a Sabbath day or a celebrated feast day that the Father and the Son said this was their system.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we practice these things.
I'll remind them also Isaiah 66 verse 23. It says that, and it shall be, and this is a prophecy about like the millennial reign, the kingdom to come, when you have the kingdom, the resurrection, Yeshua and the Father living amongst us, and there's all the mortal survivors of the nations that made it through the tribulation period, repopulating the earth outside of the kingdom. But this prophecy says that it shall be from new moon to new moon and from Sabbath to Sabbath that all mankind will come bow down before me, says the Lord. Right. All mankind, it says. So it's part of the kingdom behavior that we should have some joy in wanting to practice and wanting to get to learn, because we'll be doing it forever.
All right, guys. So the new moon, it's 4 times a year. It's very interesting, based specifically off the calendar that is no longer followed by hardly any of the world. So therefore, for the average Christian that's learning about, wait, why are they selling this new moon thing? Why, like Westblade said, Isaiah 66, why is all the world going to be celebrating this new moon thing when Yeshua returns? So what is this thing? So when people start to try to study it, that leads them into a calendar discussion. And that's like, it's a huge debate.
Considering too that many people have been taught that the Apostle Paul often rejects the idea in his letters that we should be, as Christians, that we should be keeping any of those instructions for the feasts and stuff. That they often point to Colossians 2, right, 16 through 17. No one is to act as your judge in regard to food or drink or respect of festival, new moon, or Sabbath day. People take that and they say, well, see, nobody can judge you. As a new convert, as a Christian, a believer in the Most High God, you don't have to keep any of those commandments, and then don't let anybody judge you for that. Whereas I would put forth, he's saying the opposite. He's telling new converts, don't let the pagan Gentile nations around them judge them for now taking part in this behavior of God that he called eternal. It also says that they're a shadow of things to come, which is present tense when Paul said it, meaning that there's still things to come, that these things are a shadow of. The feast days are often a shadow of the kingdom.
So let me get this right. How does a shadow work? So does a shadow cast a reflection of a different thing?
No. Or does it disappear when the thing that casts it actually shows up? Neither one of those are true, no.
I need that meme where all the calculations are happening.
That's right.
How do shadows work? So yeah, all right.
A small local sun enclosed in a dome ceiling.
Right. Great point, brother.